was if there's anybody here who likes to play golf, we've got we've got a deal for you. Diane Wilbur, one of our members, has a couple free passes. She's uh, wants to know if somebody would like to go and enjoy and golf in the Michigan Legacy Art Park Golf Classic. It's on August 30th. It's a 10 a.m. shotgun start, and you can get details at the Michigan Legacy Art Park website. That's MLAP, Michigan Legacy Art Park. Diane says some of their sponsors are not sending golfers to the event, so we have player spots available. They're worth 125 bucks, but they're free. So if you'd like to golf in that tournament, it's just a fun tournament. Please get a hold of Diane Wilbur. I'll put her name and phone number in the chat here. And if you'd be interested in golfing for free at the Michigan Legacy Art Park Golf Classic, that's really hard to say. Check it out. Okay. Thank you. Even with rehearsal, I still can't say it right. I don't know what's wrong here. But anyway, so there's that. And okay, Cindy has asked that we enable the live transcription for the meeting, and I will do that in just a second here. Okay, now you should be seeing transcriptions live on your pages. If it's bugging you personally, you can turn it off using the little icon down at the bottom there, the CC icon. But if you want it on, just leave it alone and you should be able to see it. Okay? We're going to start in about a minute here. It's good to see all these people here on a late August day. I have to tell you, can you believe it's August 20th, you guys? I mean, really, it's August 20th.
I know.
Woo-wee. So most of you seeing your grandkids go home now, and you have a couple weeks to recover. Okay, great. It's 10 o'clock. We'll get going here. Hello, I'm Jim Dalzo. I'm the chair of the party. It's great to have you here for our August meeting. If you're new to these meetings, we have this meeting every month. It's the third Saturday of every month. The meeting itself starts at 10. You can come at 9:30 to hang out, or in this case, learn a whole bunch of stuff about broadband from Dino. And we welcome that. It's great to have a little get together before we actually get to the meeting. And that starts at 10. We'll have party announcements and a few show and tells. And then we'll hear from Gary Munce later on. Okay, let's see here. And please mute if you're not speaking to the camera. Please, everybody, mute up. We'd appreciate your doing that. That'd be great. So let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Someday.
All right. Okay.
We're working on it.
Yes, we're working hard on it.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Toward it.
Okay, we've got a nice little agenda here. We're going to try and get through it pretty quickly. The first thing I want to say is thank you to everybody who went to our Blue Wave party at the Storm Cloud Tap Room. Last Friday night, we had great attendance. We're pretty sure we had over 100 people at it, which is pretty awesome. And I really want to thank Jana Goldman, who couldn't be here today, and also Judy Bosma, who might be here today, for their work putting that together. Jana organized all the logistics of it, got the decorations, got the tables moved, got the people to host and all that stuff. And Judy worked with people to put out a fine Benzie Dems spread of donated food. It was really, really nice. People had a great time, and we raised about $6,000–7,000 for our candidates. They raised it. We got people together, asked you to give, and you all gave to the candidates. So thank you very much. They loved it. They had a great time. I'd like to welcome our school board candidates. That is all solidified now since our last time together, which was in June, quite a while ago. We skipped our July meeting, if you didn't notice. We'd like to welcome David Main, Matt Smith, and Tiasha Harrison, who are running for Benzie Central School Board. Thank you. They have there are other people in that race besides them. So, and some of them are pretty conservative. So we're hoping to work pretty hard to get them elected and get the Benzie Central School Board on a better track than it's been. And we'd like to welcome Liz Negrow, Scott Cubitt, and Aubrey Ann Parker, who will be running for the Frankfurt, Alberta School Board. The cool thing there is it's those three and one other who's already on the school board, and they all have good pro-education, pro-science, pro our values. So there's not much of a contest there. Vote for who you want. It'll be great. But we're going to be pushing David and Matt and Tiasha very hard for Benzie Central. I also want to just tell you, getting back to financial support, what we've been doing over the last year to help win this election that's bearing down on us now. I want you to know that recently we sent out checks totaling about $12,000, and we sent them to Terry Sabo, running for state senate, Kathy Albro, running for state representative, Betsy Kofia, running for state representative. We have 2 state representatives coming out of our district right now, which is just great. And also, last fall, a year ago, we raised $12,000 on an online witches Halloween party for Gretchen and Dana and Jocelyn, our top 3 wonderful governor, secretary of state, and attorney general. So we did that, and we had recent fundraisers for them on Memorial Day weekend, and those 2 fundraisers raised them respectively $8,000 and $6,000 for Gretchen and for Dana. That's your generosity. And as I said, we raised about $7,000, or our candidates raised about $7,000 during the Blue Wave Party last Friday. So we're doing a lot to help our candidates, and that's just really great. You all should be very proud that you are doing that. Okay, some other things I want to show you here, getting into some show and tell stuff just for a second. This will take just a second to do. Let's see. No, that's not it. Please stand by. Oh, I goofed myself up here. No, that won't work. So your patience is saintly, and I appreciate it. There it is. Okay, great. Okay, good news. If you haven't heard, Benzie Democrat headquarters is open 6 days a week. There's the hours, Monday through Friday, Monday 10 to 7, Tuesday through Friday 10 to 4, and Saturday 10 to 1. We've got all kinds of signs. You'll hear more about that later. We've got voter registration information. We got all kinds of information for you. So if you have questions about the election, if you want to get involved in the election, we're open a lot of the time, and please come over. There are people there who know what the heck they're talking about, and it's great to have all that. So please take advantage of that. Okay, so that's one thing we wanted to show you. And then, oh yeah, this will be fun. You may remember we voted to do a billboard recently, and the billboards are going up momentarily. And I'd like to show you what the billboard is going to look like. So there it is. And that will be on US 31, I believe, facing towards Traverse City as you come into Honor. That's where it'll be for the first run, and then that's within a few days through the middle of September, and then from late September into late October, this or another one will be the other side of Benzonia, facing people heading north on either 115 or 31 coming into Benzonia. And it might be the same one, it might be a different one. I'll just say you probably remember we heard a little, had a little billboard contest. We got a bunch of entries for it, entrees, and the executive committee met and kind of mixed and matched and looked at stuff, and this is what we came up with. And your comments about this in chat or anywhere else are very welcome. If you want to do this one again in a month, we can do that. If you think it needs to change, let us know. Okay? But we like this one. We think this is a pretty good one. So there you go.
Hey, Jim,
Yes.
could you remind us where the 3 spots are going to be, where the billboards are going to show, or how many there are and where they're going to be?
Sure. There's 2 runs,
You just told him.
and one of them will be east of Honor, facing towards Traverse City along 31 as you come into Honor. Okay? And then that's for the next month. You'll see it if you're driving from Traverse City, and you'll see it, I believe, on your right. And the other one will be a month after this, and that will be on the far side of Benzonia, looking at northbound traffic from 115 and from 31 coming into Benzonia. So those are the locations. Okay? Okay, the only other thing I want to say for the chairman's remarks here is that it was very, very hard not to be able to do direct fundraising for Dr. Bob. There's this weird rule in federal law that county parties can't really give very much money to federal candidates. Don't ask me why, it's just a rule. So we try to work around that as much as we can. One of the things we found out is that the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee is not giving Dr. Bob any money because he's a rural candidate and it's in an area that they don't think they can win. We've put together a letter, and it's from the executive committee going to the DCCC to say, look, you really need to support Dr. Bob. I want everybody to know that Dr. Bob's numbers are starting to look good. He's been working very, very hard since last year. He's the first guy in for any kind of campaign in this part of the state. And he's working very hard. It's having an effect. He can beat Jack Bergman. That is possible. And I hope you'll do everything you can to support him. We can't send him money, but we can write a letter to the DCCC and say, hey, send him money. So I want you to know we are doing that, okay? Cool. All right, great.
But Jim, we as individuals can send them money.
Absolutely.
Right, that's
And I hope you do. I really, really, really hope you do. Okay? Great. Okay, well, we were going to have Greta Bolger do a very nice tour of our website for us because it's just gradually gotten better and better. And it's just a great thing to see. But she's got grandchildren duty today and was not comfortable trying to do that and this at the same time. So I'm going to do it for her, but I want all credit for this to go to Greta because she's done such a great job. She really has. So here's the website, and here is the home page. And I just want to show you a few important things. As this election moves forward, you're going to have questions. You're going to want to know stuff, and a lot of it is here. So, for example, you want to reach me, or you want to reach our treasurer, or you need to talk to somebody who you think is on our executive committee. Here it is. Here's the whole executive committee with all of the phone numbers and emails of all of our executive committee members, and that's under About Us. If you want to find out what township somebody's in, all that. We've got a very nice, and this is actually an expandable Benzie County map that has all kinds of information in it when you expand it. If you need to find out where the township hall is, if you want to, and we're going to talk about this later, if you want to be a poll watcher, if you want to be a poll worker, here is every township and village in the county and how to contact them. It's got their hours, it's got their emails, it's got their address, it's got their polling locations if it's in a different place. So there's that. Let's see, what are some other good things to do? Yeah, as some of you know, if you're in one of the townships that's getting a lookout report, we are following what some of the townships are doing by sending members in to go and write up reports. And we have that for the county commission as well. Here they all are. If you looking to how we got here, it's from About Us to County and Township Reports. Whoops. And here. And then if you go here, there's all of the reports, one at a time in chronological order. And there it is for Inland Township. Okay. And they're all pretty up to date. And I just want to say, it's great to have all these people doing this. It's really a huge help. People are not aware enough of how important local government is. So we're hoping to change that. Okay. If you wanted to write Jack Bergman an angry letter, here's how you do it. And it's got all the contact information. Okay. Well, there's that. Okay, and the last thing I want to show you from here, we've been waiting for quite a while to do this. We have a video page now, and all of our Zoom meetings have been recorded, and they're all up now. We finally caught up on that, and I can't thank Jan Howe enough for her work making that happen. Thank you, Jan. So if you go to videos and then click that, you go to our Benzie Dems channel on YouTube. Look at that. There's the June, the May, the April meetings. Whoever our speaker was that time, you can access it. It's right there. Okay. And here's the one thing I want to show you. And this is a special treat. I'm not going to say anything for 2 minutes. I'm going to let this do the talking here.
That was cool.
All right. Hope you all like that. Cool. All right. So that's our tour.
Benzie Dems meeting. We just saw the parade.
Yes, we did. Okay. So there you go. That's our website, folks. BenzieDemocrats.com. When you got a question about the election, got a question about the party, got a question about the county, what's going on in the county, that's actually a pretty good place to look first, okay? BenzieDemocrats.com. All right, that's it for our tour, and that's it for the chair's remarks. I'm sure you're tired of listening to me talk. And the website tour. Once again, thank you to Greta Bolger, who put together the slideshow we just saw, and is our webmaster, and is doing a fine job with both. And I'd like to thank Sue Rostelli and Michael Hertz and myself for those shots we looked at just there. Okay? Okay, so that's it. Next up here, a new voice for today anyway, although she's familiar to many of us. Jane Wild is going to talk about a project that we're trying to get going right now. Jane, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Excuse my black box. I'm here to talk about pop-ups. Pop-ups are basically like, we're going to show up, get a plan throughout the area, throughout the county. We're going to have a table with yard signs and brochures and a big, basically presents. We're going to the people. So it was very, very successful in Leelanau County in 2020. And so we are going to try and do that. Ours will be a little bit different because we have a headquarters. They didn't. So we'll have a little bit of a different twist, but we'll need volunteers. They're going to be fun. We're going to, we have a lot of the organizing details to figure out, but once we get a group of volunteers, we're going to get going soon. These are going to happen, frequency and locations to be determined. Some candidates are going to show up. We're going to have, voter registration. And basically we need locations, whether it's a park or somebody's yard or driveway, somewhere that is high visibility for people driving by, that they'll see us and want to come stop. And also that it's safe and, easy to park and pull off, that kind of a thing. So we really need volunteers. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a great way to meet more of our community members.
I'm going to do it.
And hopefully grab some votes, encourage people to come out and vote. So I will put my contact info in the chat box, and we really, really need some help. It's going to be fun, outdoors. And we're just going to show everybody that we're here again, and that we're going to have, it'll be great. Sorry, I think I need a little more coffee, but it's going to be really fun. So please sign up to help us. We'll need people to do things like wave to the cars going by with signs. We'll need, people to, sign off when people take yard signs away. It's just going to be a laid back but fun activity throughout the county between now and Election Day. Thanks.
Thank you, Jane, very much. I appreciate that. I'll also add, if you live on 31 or on 22 or on a fairly busy county road where there's a good amount of traffic that goes by, and would like to have us set up in your driveway or in front of your front lawn, there's a good place for us to park and put out a table or whatever it is we're going to do. Let Jane know that, okay? That's how Leelanau did it. And Jane, could I ask you? I know you watched that presentation that Leelanau did and how they did their pop-ups. What about it struck you, other than the fact that it's really fun?
Well, it is really fun. I just think it's a great way to get people to show up. So many people that vote Dem just don't show up. Some of the feedback that came through in Leelanau was people would say things like, wow, I had no idea there were so many Dems in Leelanau. A super surprising thing that happened for them, they weren't asking for donations, but they had a donation bucket. They got I think $14,000 or something outrageous for their pop-ups. But it's just to be seen and let others know that we're not alone, we're here, and we can do this, we can win. We already have some candidates that want to participate in the pop-ups. And it'd be great for, the commissioner candidates. I'm looking at you, Karen. And I don't know what other commission candidates are on this call. And if the school board candidates want to participate, that's their call, because it's supposed to be nonpartisan, but it's going to be great.
Great. Thank you, Jane.
Be outside.
Yeah. And it's people just cruising by and they go, oh, look, there's the Democrats. Kind of like, the roadside fruit stand, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Cool. Okay. Thank you, Jane Wild. And just so you know, Jane is a big part of our letter to the editor program, which is going so well between her and Rick Rhodes, who's handling who does what which week. It's really going well. Anytime you look in the Record Patriot now, there's a great letter in there from one of our members. And it's if you look at the letter page 4 years ago or even 2 years ago, it's really changed. And our hard work has done that, and Jane is a big part of it. So thanks for all you do, Jane. Okay, next up here, something else I've been looking forward to doing for you guys is to show you this. I won't say anything. I'm just going to play it. And then you can see what you think of this. Okay, ready? Let's go.
My name is Dave. I'm a residential contractor doing remodel and new construction homes. I've been in the business for 25 years roughly. I always liked working with my hands, and it seemed like a natural fit to pursue carpentry for me. To create a home for someone is a very rewarding process, to see what you've done and to be proud of it. Being a business owner in northern Michigan is quite challenging right now because there's so much work available, but I just can't staff it well enough. I can't find enough help. My business, I'm looking to hire unskilled labor as well as skilled labor. People are looking to move up here that are in the more working class trades oriented professions. They hear good things about working up here and they want to be in the environment and maybe away from the city life a little bit. We talk about their skill sets, how they might fit into my business and what they're looking for. But then the conversation often goes to, well, I'll give you a call when I get some housing. And if they don't have housing already, they're probably not going to find it right now. Well, in government, I see that there is some conversation about the housing problem. It seems like we're more caught up in culture wars than we are problems of the everyday problems that need to be solved.
There you go. So here's what this is. We collaborated with the other 3 counties, Mason, Manistee, and Leelanau. Started this about a year ago. It took us a hell of a long time to find someone who's actually willing to speak to these issues in this way. But we found him. That's Dave Gardner from Benzonia, brother of Jessica, who's on the meeting today. And we are going to work very hard to get this distributed virally through every county's platforms. And we're also looking at buying some ad time on YouTube to do this. So what we're asking each county to do, so I'm asking you to do, is there somebody here who's a good Facebooker, maybe or maybe not does some other platforms, but Facebook for sure, who would be willing to be what we're calling a moderator for this? We need someone we want to launch this all at the same time on all the platforms, on all the counties that are participating. That's how you get some impact rather than dribbling it out. Don't want to do it that way. So we need somebody to work with us on that. Chris Hintz of IC Communications in Traverse City, who made this with us, will be happy to train some folks up on the things you can do to help it go out virally more quickly. So if there's someone in our group today, or if you know someone who's a Dem in Benzie who would know a lot about this and be able to help us with it, even if they don't know very much, if they like doing it, that's all you need. Please put your name in the chat and we will get back to you. We want to do this in mid-September, just before the voting starts. The voting is going to start on September 29th, folks. So this is coming at us like a freight train. And everything we're doing today is about that fact. So for this, we hope to launch it in the middle of September, get a great message out about Democrats caring about affordable housing and that we are trying hard to do something about it. So if you could help us with that, please put your name in the chat and we'll get back to you. And you'll probably learn a lot from Chris. Chris is a real sharp guy. And we'll all be working together, the 4 counties, getting this out to our members. And we think it's going to be a huge help, both in Terry Sable's run for state Senate, because those 3 of those 4 counties are in there, and for Betsy Kofia and Kathy Albro, who are running for state house, because those counties are in their districts as well. So there's a nice overlap here, and please consider helping us in this way. I have to tell you, there's a lot of people in our party who are working very, very hard right now. We need more help if we're going to try and get everything we want to get done before the election. So I know everybody's been really, really tied up with summer. I totally get that. That's easing off very soon. Please, please, please consider doing whatever you can to help us, including this. Okay, speaking of needing help, canvassing is underway. Terry Sable's folks, Betsy Kofia's folks, Kathy Albro's folks are all canvassing right now. And Dr. Bob's folks are starting to do it. And so we're looking for folks to canvass. And we've invited a couple people here who've already started canvassing for us to let us know how it's going. And one of them is Jan Klemp. Jan, could you in just a minute tell us what your experience was when you went out last Monday? I believe you went out for Terry Sabo. You there, Jan? Are you unmuted? Unmute if you haven't unmuted.
Jim?
Yes.
Jan was having some computer issues earlier.
I see that she is she's muted. There
Yeah.
Hi. Oh, there you go. Hi, Janice.
Sorry.
Okay.
Oh.
That's okay.
Is this better?
Yeah, that's great. So how you doing, Jan?
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Yes. Hello, everyone. Sorry about all that. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. I was recruited by the gently persuasive Mike Ross to get involved with Terry Sabo's campaign. He submitted my name to Tom Delinka. We got together on Monday at Democratic headquarters. We were assigned a turf in Beulah, and they mentioned something called minivan, which I thought was a vehicle, but it's an app that's you get on your phone, and it gives you, you guys have probably already done this. I haven't canvassed or gone door to door since I was selling junior achievement in high school stuff. But anyway, the app, gives you the locations of people who have voted within the past couple of years. It gives you their name, address, gender, and age, and some history of how they have voted in the past. In any case, it ended up being super fun. I think we made, of the 15 attempts that we made at different addresses, we were able to actually connect with 10 households, and 3 of them were super enthusiastic. One gentleman was not a Michigan voter. It was an obsolete address for the app. but he wants a Terry Sabo sign because, you know, he's just very democratic. He lives in Maryland. So it's in a very prominent, well landscaped home on Crystal Avenue, right on Crystal. And then the second positive experience was a 55-year-old female who did not look her stated age. And she said she was undecided, but, you know, by the time we left, she, I think, was swinging our way. She made us hang around long enough so that we could see her baby chickens. And then the third super positive experience was an older gent, older than me, in a mobile home park just south of Crystal Lake. And he invited us into his mobile home. And yes, he wants a sign for Terry Sabo. Marilyn Raymond and I are going to go back out on our own Monday, armed with the minivan app, which lets us know who has been contacted before, so we don't recontact people. I understand that you can also just go out with a clipboard with names and addresses. I'm going to keep at this technological wonder called minivan. So that's it.
Thank you. And the other 7, while not super duper amazing positive, were okay, right?
Oh yeah. We had Tom Dolinka, who was our, you know, guide, and he's, I think, employed by Terry Sabo's campaign this summer. Tom was astute enough and communicative enough to share with me, if you see a Trump sign in a car or a MAGA hat in the window, just don't even go, you know, just don't knock on the door. We had no negative experiences.
Yeah.
It's all very positive.
Great. This is the first time you've
But-
done this, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I also
You're
want to hear, thank you so much, Jan. Thank you for what you're doing. We really appreciate your leap of faith into something where people saying it really is going to be okay. It really, well, I don't know. It's really going to be, and it really was okay. So thank you. That's great.
Mhm.
That's bold in these days. That's great. And also, we'd like to hear from Karen Cunningham, who's running for county commissioner in Crystal Lake Township and in the city of Frankfort. And she's been at this for quite a while, although she was felled by COVID. She's now almost back up on her feet, hopes to start again at the canvassing on Monday. Karen, good to have you here. Could you tell us a little bit about what you're seeing and hearing as you go door to door in Crystal Lake Township in Frankfort?
Good morning. Hi, everyone. I'm not usually a baritone, but the voice still isn't there. So, but you know, you can put a store-bought health. So anyways, my experience has been fabulous going out door to door. I have District 3, which is basically Frankfort and part of Crystal Township around Crystal. And people have thanked me for running, being visible, coming by their doors. So, and even in the parades in Frankfort on Memorial Day-ish, it was just people walking up to me and shaking my hand. I have been so encouraged by this. I was under the weather. I did go by on the Blue Wave night, beeping my horn because I was still in isolation, and I saw Jane and waved to her, but anyways, I couldn't be there for obvious reasons on that. But my experience has been doing what I'm calling porch talks, following the way that it has been successful in my district before, going door to door and sitting and chatting. So I just called porch talk. From that, after I did a couple, I think maybe 2 turfs, maybe 3, I noticed there was a theme, affordable housing, that people, I would just ask them, what are the big 1 or 2 issues? And then I gave them a little slip of paper if they didn't have time. I was very respectful of that. Gave them this little slip of paper, my name and an email address. And I said, if you have time, just pop off those main issues to me. But the theme has been, as you know, affordable housing, dependable, flexible childcare, and broadband. Broadband was the biggest, and a lot of these were pro-Democrat, or really my base that I was going to first. As you know, through the minivans, it's divided up that way. And this was the base and support. But quite a few people have told me that they want broadband. Broadband will bring in, and it's like preaching to the choir here, I just listen. Broadband will bring those jobs, keep our school system going, you know, make it a vital, healthy community that has a full spectrum of people, and a 12-month community, not just, you know, not just a resort area in the Frankfurt area anyways. So that was really good hearing that. So from that information, you maybe have seen, I made a little postcard, and on the back, I put, on our porch talks, you told me. And then I put the 3 issues there and a or an email to contact me. But so the groups I have been seeing have been very, very supportive, or the individuals I've been seeing had some signs out. And I think I have a place for a great pop-up, and I'll talk to Jane about that.
Great.
She has put a couple of my signs are still there. It's kind of near the arch in Frankfurt as you're coming into town. So we'll get my signs out of there up later. But anyways, people have been very, very supportive, like I said, but I think it could be really fun, and I would appreciate, I'm a little behind on my turfs, but now that I've got my new tennis shoes, I burned through 1 pair of them. I got a new pair yesterday. And I'm going to start going out, looking at it. I have a broadband meeting on this 22nd. So really it is the 22nd in the morning. And then also on the 23rd, probably late morning, I have electricians coming in the afternoon at the house. But I'm telling you, it is a snap with using this minivan. It's been fun and smiles. And yes, people have invited me in their house. One of our rules is you're not supposed to go in the house, you know, because you end up staying for feeding the chickens, as you said, you fed the chickens or whatever. But it has been very, very positive, and people are so supportive and grateful that you're out there and that I'm listening. Tell me, and I will act as an advocate for you, you know, so I'm looking for people, 1 or 2 people or however many that maybe would like to help drive, or walk up to a door with me and, you know, scooch the poot or whatever is there, you know. It is fun, help collect that information, and empower people so they know they have a voice. A lot of people haven't known that their county commissioner in my district was replaced with, not by a Democrat, not with a person who they elected to put in there. Yeah. And so these are parts of the conversation that come up, but really I would love to have somebody, you know, at my elbow there and just listening, smiling, maybe getting the information once you walk back to the car. I did start getting good at that as I'm walking away from the house and doing it. But anyways, I don't want to take a lot of time, but it would be lovely to work with somebody. I'm going to hit the turfs again this week in between working and everything else. And it has been an absolute delight. It has been a delight, and you feel very appreciative when people say thank you, for being out there.
Great. Well, thank you for being out there, Karen. It's great. We really appreciate it. Mike, Ross, very briefly, we're a little over time here. Could you tell people how they can get involved with canvassing? What would you like them to do right now so that we can get back to them and get them engaged in minivan and canvassing for Terry, for Dr. Bob, for Kathy, for Betsy, for Karen, for our other candidates? Very quick.
Well, just as you called on me, I was putting in contact information in the chat. And what I was saying was that we're right now planning to knock doors every Monday. But of course, we can do that in any other day. If you have the minivan, you can do it at your convenience. So the Monday meeting from 3 until about 7 is just to get organized, talk about how to approach a door or how to operate the minivan, or we can even do clipboards if you want to, the old-fashioned way. Anyway, we're getting started, and please contact me if you would have any implication that you could do this. It's, as both of the ladies just said, it's quite enjoyable, and you really get to meet a lot of interesting people. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike, very much. Look for his information in the chat there, and don't forget to copy the chat before you leave the meeting so you have all that information. Great. Okay, moving right along here, we need to hear from Chris Kitzman about a couple different things, including phone banking, how our office operation is going, and signs. Chris?
All right, the parallel voter outreach, parallel to door, is of course phone banking. The Michigan Democratic Party has been doing that quite a bit. Grand Traverse Dems are doing it. We had really successful events fighting against some of the petitions. We had a lot of people calling in November and December, but we are just now kicking off phone banking in the county, and we're starting with Dr. Bob Lorentz's support. We have a list of about 52 people who have previous experience as phone bankers, and some of our wonderful volunteers have been calling those folks. At this point, we have only heard back from 18, and I'm not very happy with those results. I think there's some concerns about people in this climate, but the phone bankers who are doing it are just having wonderful conversations, much like Karen has told us about the porch conversations. The point of these calls is to just listen, find out what people are interested in. Once there's some issues, they can talk about what Dr. Bob in this case, or any of the candidates, because we will be expanding this to all of the candidates, what their take is on those issues, how they will work in their various places to do that. So it's really an easy conversation. We will move into a little more of a persuadable thing as we get closer to the election. But again, so far the reports are that it's going well. We started last week with just 4 people calling. And again, it's a nice way to collect information about share information about our candidates and collect information about what people are thinking out there. So please, 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 if you think you've got time to make calls, you need your laptop, your computer, you do it with a phone. It looks like Dr. Bob's phone number is calling. It's not your personal cell phone. And you will only talk to people you will only actually talk with people. The setup is such that any phone that doesn't answer and there is voicemail gets a message from Dr. Bob right away. So it's easy, it's fast, you can go through a lot of people. So please, please, please either put it in the chat that you're willing, call the office, contact one of the board members, just say, yes, I will step up and do this. Dr. Bob's trying to do 2 million calls between now and November, and that's a lot of phones. Our office operations are going just great. We've got a wonderful volunteer staff of 17 people and 7 more subs. You saw the office hours early. They're really ready to answer questions. We've got a lot of resources on voting. Where do I vote? What are the ballots going to look like? How do I get an absentee ballot? Those are coming out on September 29th. So people need to get their applications in for them before that so they can receive them in the mail. We had many, many, many Dems voting by absentee in the primary. So that's all geared up. And signs, we're signs. They're all over the walls. Right now, I saw in the chat there are a couple of questions about which signs we have. We have Sabo signs for the Senate, 32nd. We have Lorenzer, who's running in the 1st Congressional District. We have Betsy Kofia in the 103rd House and Kathy Albro in the 104th, which is the bulk of Benzie County. We also have signs for our commission candidates. Karen has some with us. Mostly she, in her personal style, is handing those out in person because that's how she likes to work. And that's great because it's that voter outreach contact. Stuart McFerrin, who's running in the west side of the northwest side of the state, northeast side of the state, and north is county, not state, has a bunch of signs. And Patty Perquette just brought some in. So we've got local, state, and national signs. Later, we will be getting Gretchen, and we've got some Nestle signs, but we'll be getting Gretchen and Jocelyn Benson signs. So that's where we stand with that right now. Yeah, but we need phoners just like we need door to door. This is not the year to be cautious. Step up.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much. Yes, Chris has just whipped our whole office operation into great shape, not to mention all the help she's giving us with data. Thank you so much, Chris, for your hard work. Okay, next up here, we're going to hear from our Vice Chair and Membership Chair, Kira Duvernoy. She's going to talk about postcards and poll workers. Kira?
Hi, everybody. I'm a little concerned about time. Do you want to skip any of that, Jim? For our main speaker?
Let's just talk about
okay.
What you wanted to talk about.
Okay. The postcards. We thank you, everybody who's been writing postcards. We are going to be ongoing with that through probably mid-October, maybe even late October. So stay tuned. You'll keep getting emails about what we need and whatnot. So that's great. And what I would like to do is encourage people to be election workers. So that is, the title is election inspector. But really those are the people who are working at the election, who hand you your ballot, who help you put it in the tabulator. We need Democrats. Everybody in many of our workers in our county elections are not Democrats. We need more Democrats. So when I worked this last August election, which was the first time I worked, I was one of two Democrats who were there. One had to go over to the absentee voter area. I could only work 12 hours because of a family event that would have taken the last few hours of the election, since they're open till 8 and then until everything gets counted. Because I couldn't be there the last few hours, there was no Democrat there. And that's very important, because when there's any issue, when a person needs their ballot looked at to find out why the tabulator wouldn't take it, we need a Democrat and a Republican to help that person. If right now, I feel like the workers are all fabulous people, but we know that there's change afoot in how, in the push from the far right to change all of that. So we really need to step up. We need to be there. We need to let people know Democrats are in our county. We're active. We want to help make democracy happen. And where it happens is at the polls. It's very exciting work to do. So what you have to do to become an election worker is go to our webpage, find your county clerk, go in to talk to your county clerk. They'll give you a real quick way to sign up, and they'll be thrilled because they really need us.
Kira,
So-
you mean a township clerk?
Thank you, Jim. I mean the township clerk, each township. Thank you, thank you. Okay, end of my story. If anybody wants more information about that, I'm happy to talk to them. But it's fun.
Yeah, and it's vital. Yeah. Thank you very much, Kira. Okay. All right. So that concludes the party aspect of our meeting today. The message is we need you. This is not a time to stay on the couch. This is not a time to bombard yourself with bad news from the cable. It's time to go get and make some good news ourselves. Okay? We can make our own good news. Thank you. I see a quick question here from Jill.
Yes, excuse me. I know we're short of time, but I just wanted to make a real brief announcement for those of you who may not have heard. Richard and I are hosting a little meet and greet for Terry Sabo at our house Thursday night, 5:30 to 7:30. I know people have been to a lot of events lately. We were sorry to have missed the Blue Wave. We were sort of slammed with out-of-town guests. But we hope to offer some decent refreshments and a fun time to get together. A couple of you may even be able to see handiwork in our yard that was completed by some of your family members. So you might want to take that in. At any rate, we would love to have you. And you might, I think that I can have the invitation sent out again for those who didn't see it. There's an RSVP for ActBlue, but you might let me know too. It doesn't matter, come anyway, but I can give you a little extra information on parking. So, and my email is just jill@claybor.com. It couldn't be easier. So if you think you might want some parking guidance, just get in touch and hope to see many of you Thursday. Thanks.
Thanks, Jill. Jill, if you would type into your chat the time and date of the event for Terry and your phone number and your email address so people can contact you. We'll also put it out on our own blast in the next few days. We weren't doing that until after this meeting was out of the way. Okay, but thank you.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to jump in, but thanks.
No, that's fine.
Will
We're
do.
glad you did. Okay, all right. Let's get going now on kind of the main event here. Gary Munce is active with many volunteer initiatives in his community and around Michigan. When it comes to the internet, Gary is a founding member of the Michigan Broadband Alliance. He's now president of the Alliance Jumpstart program. And more locally, in southern Michigan, he's a member of the Linden Township Broadband Implementation and Oversight Committees, and a member of the Washtenaw County Broadband Task Force. Washtenaw came up in our coffee clutch earlier this morning, people pointing out there's good stuff going there. He's a graduate of U of M. He pursued a career in information tech at Michigan. He was a manager of tech services at the Institute for Social Research and the U of M libraries. I can't imagine doing either of those. It's just vast. Wow. Anyway, he's also very active with many other community initiatives, including he's past president of the Chelsea Senior Center. He's a trustee of the Chelsea District Library, and he's a board member of the Chelsea Area Festivals and Events. And he also admits to being a lifelong musician. Gary, good to have you, man. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Jim. You left one thing off there. I'm also a lifetime friend of Jim Dolzo, so that's probably the most important thing I can contribute this morning in terms of resume building. Jim, it's nice to see you again. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning.
Yeah, Gary and I haven't seen each other for about 60 years. Something like that.
Time flies.
Yeah.
I would like to start this
I'm
morning.
going to go look at the number on Bill's mailbox.
Okay, would everybody please mute except for Gary so we can hear his presentation?
Thank you.
Gary, go ahead.
I'd like to start by extending to you my gratitude for all of the hard work that you all are doing. I've listened this morning of all of the various efforts that you have undertaken, and they are greatly appreciated. I want to tell you that I've had the opportunity to be a poll worker at the last presidential election, this recent primary, and the upcoming upcoming election in November. So I understand the joys of working at the polls, the commitment of working at the polls, and the necessity of working at the polls. So if any of you have thought about it, I would encourage you to take the opportunity to do that. It's extraordinarily important because I think someone made a very penetrating comment that democracy happens at the polling places, and there's no better place to be a part of it than there. Jim rattled off a bunch of stuff. I mean, basically what it boils down to this morning is that I have had both the good fortune and the difficult task of working on a broadband project here in Linden Township. That's how I sort of cut my teeth on broadband. So I think I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, Jim, if that's all right. And,
oh, please, you're all set to do it. Your
few
co-host.
slides, and we'll start from there. So I'll share my screen here, and we'll see where we can go. So yeah, I just want to start with a little bit of background, and I'll start with background about me. So as I say, I'm from Linden Township. So Linden Township is located just west of Ann Arbor, about 15 to 20 miles. Population of just short of 3,000. We have 1,140 households in Linden Township. Unlike most places in Michigan, broadband was not available to Linden Township in any consistent way, shape, or form. So in about 2013, we formed a community group to see what we could do about this. We spent several years trying to figure out what the heck we had to do, how to go about it, what needed to be done. I think the watershed moment for Linden Township was when we realized that there was no incumbent that was going to come in and build this for us, that we were going to have to undertake building it ourselves. It was a decision that we were surprised that we had to make it, and we were daunted by the thing that we would have to go out and raise the money and build an infrastructure from scratch for Linden Township. But basically what we did, we had a group that got together. The first thing we needed to do was to lean on our local government officials, our township board, to give us enough money to do a feasibility study, which we conducted. We took the feasibility study information. We went back to the board of the township board and asked them for their help in putting an initiative on the ballot for Linden voters to vote on. But we had enough data from the feasibility study, and we also did surveys of our residents about their desire to have broadband. The board supported us. They put it on the ballot. It passed about 67 to 33%. It passed. That was in 2017. We started our construction in 2018, lit our first household in 2019. And the last household, well, it's the ongoing, it's not the last one, but the last one of the first part of the project was done in 2020. As I said, we have 1,140 households in Linden Township. We have 969 of our houses in Linden Township are subscribed to the broadband project here in Linden. Granted, Linden is different than Benzie. So let's move on. Let's move forward and see where we can go. The one thing that is very similar between all of these places, we'll talk about similarities and differences, but over the recent years, there's been many grassroots urban and rural expansions of broadband projects that have been done by local citizens. And they're all unique and they're all different, but there have developed a sort of general progression of successful milestones that are prevalent in all of these projects that have come to fruition. And we'll talk about a few of those this morning. I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk a little bit about what I know about Benzie, and then add that to some of the milestones that I've had the opportunity to observe as being successful in other projects. So I'm not sure how much each of you knows about the current state of Benzie, but I would guess that you're fairly well attuned to what's going on. These two maps here sort of represent what is not uncommon when people undertake the project to build out some sort of broadband infrastructure in their neighborhood. On the left, we see the federal government's viewpoint of what coverage is like on Benzie County. And really, according to the federal government, there's very few people in Benzie County who do not have broadband access. I think we all realize that that's probably not true. And I think Benzie County has done taken a very important step in engaging with Merit to do an actual survey of Benzie County. And on the right, you can see the result of that. So there's a lot less purple on the right, and there's a lot more people without broadband access. And I think that's a common occurrence. The federal mapping is very poor. It is in no means related to the reality of what the situation is. So, really, it's good news that you have this survey. That's really, really good news, because I'm going to say something that I think is hopefully we can all agree upon. I think the most important thing as we undertake this project is to make sure that every single resident in your county has access to broadband when the project is completed. By access, I mean it runs near their home such that they can be connected to the broadband network. Not all of your residents will want to connect to it, but the matter of the fact is that you need to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to have access to the internet. And that, in your case, is going to be a little tricky. In Linden, for example, we had zero broadband. We had none in our township. So we were starting with a fresh, clean slate, or a clean place which we could, paint our own perfect picture, if you would. You have a mixture of haves and have-nots, which makes life somewhat more difficult, not impossible, but it's just another challenge that you have to consider when you're starting to think about how to move forward with this opportunity in Benzie County. So another thing that complicates life in terms of these haves and have-nots, because is if you have all one kind or another, it's easier to get to a solution. But when you mix these haves and have-nots, you run into a bit of difficulty. About 3 years ago, the federal government came out with what they call RDOF, the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund. And they invested a lot of money in broadband across the United States. And down at the bottom, I've listed some of the things that are happening in Benzie County. Benzie County, you have 3 different providers there in Benzie County who have gathered in some of this RDOF money to the tune of about, $1.5 million they've gathered. And they're going to take broadband with that 1.5 million to 2,077 houses. So now, and once again, this is based on pre-existing governmental maps, which were inconclusive and non-representative. So, but what the point I'm trying to make here is, you started out with some have and have-nots, and now you've sort of increased the sort of, well, there's some more that have now. So now you have a mixed bag of where are they, who are they, and what are they? As I said, the good thing for you is that you have these survey results from Merit, which is extraordinarily valuable in getting yourselves to the granularity that you're going to need to be at to make sure that each and every one of your residents does indeed get broadband. So that's a little bit of the challenge of Benzie, is this, these mixed bags of have and have-nots. But there are some things, others have had the same problem, and they've resolved it. Washtenaw County was one of those. Washtenaw County had a mixed bag of have and have-nots, and they were able to come up with a way to find out exactly down to each address level which homes had broadband and which homes did not. And then they were able to use ARPA funding to pay the bill to bring broadband to all those that didn't currently have it or were not covered by the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund. So they invested $14.6 million to deliver broadband to about 6,000 homes that were not covered under any of the pre-existing plans. So that's sort of the puzzle pieces that you have in Benzie County. On one side is the have-nots, and who's left over, and how much will it cost, and how long will it take. But many successful projects, they've developed a sort of building block or stepstone approach to how to be successful. I cannot say enough about the first two, which is pre-planning and planning. As I said, every cycle, broadband cycle, is unique. No two are the same. This process, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It took Linden Township 7 years. Of course, it was a while ago before many of the resources we currently have were available, but it is a marathon and not a sprint. I think one of the perhaps the most important thing that I've learned from the success in Linden and the success in other places is this process, takes time, and there's a lot of personal effort. I mean, individual efforts of people within the county that's required to make this happen. Some of the things along the way that are important is, number one is education. You or whomever is going to participate or wants to be one of the leaders in helping broadband in Benzie County has to learn about broadband. They have to know as much as possible as they can as they're beginning to set out on this journey. Some of it is on the job training, but a lot of it is good if you can profit by what others have done, their financial models, their technical models, their plans, and things of that nature. You're past some of the points already. You're past the, is it time to begin? You're past that point. You are in the midst of other things, though, that are extraordinarily important. I'll mention them now and come back to them again later, but things like establishing the desired outcome. What is the goal? What are the geographic areas you want to address? What's the level of service you're seeking? And also, how can I protect or future-proof the investment that we make in broadband? So there's a lot of thinking and planning that goes into this. The other thing I want to stress that's not on this building block thing here, but again, is not to be forgotten or left behind. And that is communicating with the members of the county. You have to be extraordinarily ambitious about communicating, transparent about the communication, timely about the communication, informative, because everyone wants to know exactly what's going on. And if you don't do any communicating, you'll find yourselves with all kinds of unhappy people who have different ideas about what is or is not happening. And the project will go from being something everybody dreams of having to a sort of battleground of who knows what about what. So I cannot impress upon you enough the importance of communicating where you are to the people who are waiting to have broadband come to their house. These people want broadband yesterday. They don't want to hear about anything other than why isn't it here yet. So it's really good to communicate frequently and very clearly with them about what's going on. So let's take a closer look at some of this stuff. Planning. So planning, you've got to do a lot of things. You've got to do goal setting, data collection, grant funding, research, pre-engineering, and feasibility. I'll quickly run through a few of these. So, in terms of goal setting, what is the problem statement? What are the strategic goals? You got to consider socioeconomic factors. What can people afford? What kind of assets do they have to pay for broadband? What are your target areas? What's the level of service? How will you future-proof it? People, like I say, can have physical access to it, but sometimes they're not available. It's not available to them because of an economic barrier. In the end, again, the most important thing is to make sure that everybody has access to the broadband that you build. Whether or not they take it is up to them, but it's imperative that they have access, physical and economic access. Data collection, I won't spend too much time on this. You've done this, but really I talked about, you need to collect data so that you can have a granular coverage map. You need to know after RDOF and after, all those people that have it, how many homes in Benzie County need to have access? Who are they? Where are they? And then that will help you to come up with how it is you're going to go about doing this. So you cross the data collection threshold, but you just need to now understand that that's very, very important. But now it's the beginning to unlock the key of how you're going to get everyone access to broadband. So I mentioned this before. We've seen this in planning. The FCC coverage data says, oh, look, everyone has data, already has broadband in your area. We know that's not the case. We know it's more like this, really. Many people don't have access to broadband. So we've already talked about the mapping. You've done the data collection that has sort of neutralized that philosophy. So you have a much better picture of what's going on in Benzie County. So the other thing is a feasibility study. Linden Township, as I said, they got some money from the township board to conduct a feasibility study about how many miles of cable would we need to lay in the township, where would it have to go, how much would it cost, all of the sort of the detail of what it would take to build out this network. So the feasibility study is also another common building block in this process of a successful broadband implementation. And pre-engineering is sort of an extension of the feasibility study. The pre-engineering part is actually the part where people go out and literally they drive up and down the road and they look to see where these houses are and where these cables may be and all that stuff. And they come up with, on the left of your screen here, you'll see this is the cable diagram of the public roads in Linden Township. So somebody went out and they drove every public road, every private road to make sure that, again, no one was left behind and that these were the places that we actually needed to go. So all of those things, all of that planning, all of that research, all of that effort, that all needs to be done to be successful. So there's no shortcutting or getting around it or easy way to do it. It just needs to be done. The other thing I'll talk to you briefly about is, grant funding and research. We seem to be in a period of time now where we have this sort of landslide of grant money. And I will tell you that don't be fooled by this landslide of grant money. It's there, but really, you are not going to get grant money unless you have a good proposal for that grant money. I would say good and early. An early proposal, meaning one that's, don't wait until they announce the grant and then begin to work on the proposal. You should be working and gathering all of this data now so that at such time when the grants are announced, you can be ready actually to make and submit your proposal. So it's ongoing. Even though there's a lot of money, I can tell you that you're going to be successful based on the integrity, the inclusiveness, and the completeness of your proposal. So don't be fooled that it's going to all magically unfold and fall into your lap and be done. Here you see right here in 2022, there's $65 billion coming to us from the federal government. And I think in my next slide, the state of Michigan is going to collect $1.5 billion. They're going to collect that money. Needless to say, when you have a big piece of money, there's going to be a lot of people who are interested in getting that money. So who does this broadband equity money go to? It actually goes to the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan is then responsible for entertaining proposals from groups to build out this last mile of fiber. So they recently have Michigan established a new Wi-Fi department or broadband department, and they also have now a new chief information officer or officer for that department. It's Eric Frederick, who used to be with Connect Michigan. So Michigan has in place now an office that is going to be working with the federal government to get these monies into Michigan. And we expect $1.5 billion. So I'm going to pause for a moment. I've covered a lot of ground. gone fairly quickly. I think that I want to say a few things about do not underestimate the importance of planning. Do not underestimate the importance of having local people involved in that process. No one is going to be more concerned or care more about the outcome than people who are local. It's your neighbors, it's your friends, it's your community that we're talking about here. And handing it off to someone else to do this work, you are giving up or letting go of that personal kind of commitment or connection to your neighbors and friends. So I cannot emphasize enough the importance for local involvement or local champions in your community. I don't know how many of you have read the report from Merit that did your survey, but here's a quick glimpse of what they had to say. So they basically, we're talking about connected, but Merit points to the fact that really Benzie County is unconnected or insufficiently connected. And then once again, we demonstrated that over and over through this federal grant discrepancy or this federal mapping discrepancy. We've demonstrated that over and over. So what else? I'm trying to make this point even more clear about local involvement and local investment. So this is from Merit. Merit, they have a wonderful document called the Moonshot Framework document. And in their document, they make this statement about connectivity teams. And they use the words imperative, that you establish teams of community people to go through this process. So Merit is all about it. And believe you me, Merit has seen more than one or two of these projects and has been part of many successful ones. And it keeps coming back to the fact that local input is absolutely necessary. I talked about money coming from the government. Well, the big source of money is the Broadband Equity and Development Program, which is going to bring, I said, about $1.5 billion to the state of Michigan. Here's some language from what they say. They say each eligible entity is required to demonstrate coordination and collaboration with local, regional, and tribal, as applicable, entities and diverse stakeholder groups, including political subdivisions, local and community-based organizations, to ensure full representation and inclusion of unserved or underserved and underrepresented communities throughout the planning process and development. That comes from the federal government. So that itself is a fairly powerful statement and is something that they are going to definitely pay attention to in how this money is distributed. So it's, once again, not only is it imperative for the health and well-being of local people to be involved for the sake of, taking charge and being the ones to drive this home for your community, but it's important because funders now are looking at, is there local community involvement? How deep is it? How broad is it? How representative is it? And they want to know about that before they start spending money. And I think this is my last slide coming up. It's just this comment that I think I've hopefully driven home to you this morning. We know that they're all unique and different in terms of how these broadband implementations are done. There's no two that are the same, but there are some common things that have shown themselves to be successful. Steps along the way that have been successful for many different projects. I said it's a marathon, not a sprint. It'll take time and a lot of personal effort. There's a multitude of tasks and decisions along the way that you'll need to do. And the other thing is that, it's not static. It's not, it's dynamic and changing all of the time. And I think the bottom one's the most important. The matter of the fact is that you live here. You live here and are the ones that are most closely attached to the outcome. You want an extremely positive outcome for the community. And one of the best ways to do that is to have local people involved continuously throughout the process. So sorry for rambling along, but hopefully you got my message, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions or comments this morning.
Gary, thank you very, very much for that. That's a fine presentation. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Jim.
Before we go to the questions, I'll just say there will be a meeting. They're calling it a town hall. I don't know what that means,
Yes.
but Jack O'Malley, our state representative, and Kurt Vanderwall, our state senator, and Spectrum are holding a town hall meeting Monday at Grow Benzie at 3 o'clock. I don't know what they're up to with it. I'm definitely going to go, and I think some other people should, particularly now that you're well armed with what Gary's themes are. Where's the community inclusion? Where's the plan? Where's the pre-planning? What are you all doing? Are you putting something together that's actually going to get us some money, or what? And those are some good people to ask. Hopefully some county commissioners will show up for this meeting. We'll see. But I hope some of our fellow Democrats will join us there at Project Grow Benzie this Monday at 3 o'clock. Okay. So now, do you have questions, folks? Let's get to some questions here. Just shout them out. Go ahead.
I have a question, Cunningham. Gary, why the discrepancy between the federal map and the county map as far as people who they think have access? Why the big discrepancy?
Well, I got to tell you this. First of all, the federal mapping goes like this. Here's how the federal mapping works. I think on some of those slides you saw the small little boxy areas. They're called census tracts. I mean, you're probably familiar with the idea of census tracts. So the government's response to mapping was this. If a single home in a census tract has broadband, then by definition, all in the census tract have broadband, which clearly is a rather gross, ineffective, and not accurate way of telling what has been done. That's why the county mapping is far different. The county mapping, I think you had a 20% response rate, which is pretty darn good. And it gives a very, very clear picture. These maps, I've seen several of these maps done around the state. And I got to tell you that nothing is 100% accurate, but these are impressively accurate in terms of what the real situation is out there. So it's a census tract moment with the federal government. I can tell you that for this next 1.5 billion that we're going to see come our way, or the 42 billion that the government is doing, they are waiting on a new set of more accurate data maps before they begin to receive proposals. Those data maps have not yet been finished. The government is waiting for a new set of mapping to come in before these proposals, before they'll accept proposals.
Thank you.
Gary, I have a question. What should we be pressing the county commissioners to do right now? The situation, as far as I can tell, is that they passed a resolution 2 months ago to hire a project manager. There's an indication that Cherry Capital Communication is somehow going to be involved, but we really don't have any more details about this. What should we be telling our county commissioners about what we think they should be doing next, particularly in terms of these deadlines that you've referred to?
Yeah, well, that's a difficult question to answer. I go back to this idea of I think it's imperative that the county be transparent and open about exactly what they are or are not doing. I would really press them on. I would press them on the fact that there's clearly in Benzie County a large appetite for this, and it's their responsibility as a board of commissioners to respond to the voice of the people. They are responsible for the health, the well-being, and the safety of people. And I think part of that is communicating, tell us exactly what it is you're doing. And not only that, I would say that you would want to make sure that they understand that the need for involvement by other organizations, which I'm not sure where that stands at the moment. So number one is transparency and communication. What other groups are they involving? I'm very curious about the fact that they hired an administrator or a project manager for this. I'd like to know what the job description of that project manager is, what were the things that they prioritized for that project manager. I'd like to know more about that, because that might give me some insight into what it is the county's trying to do. So I don't know if you have exact information about the job description of that
Yeah, we
person or
don't.
not.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
There's
I'd be
been
very
nothing.
curious to know, because really one could be hopeful that the purpose of that job is to be inclusive and to bring together all of these concerns, questions, answers, local concerns. That person could be the local champion or boots on the ground that we all want. But how would we know? I don't know how you would know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Dino Cortez. If I can interject here just a moment. I have asked Art Janot, who's our Platte Township Commissioner and who's also on the Economic Development Corporation for Benzie, to tell me whether we actually have hired a project manager. I told the commissioner, by the way, a little bit about my background. I'm a certified project management professional, a PMP, and I have extensive IT experience setting up corporate broadband systems.
Yes.
But I have been telling the commissioners that they need to get a project manager for the last 3.5 years.
Yes.
Now they have proposed to get one. I do not know that they have one, because they haven't answered my question about what Gary just mentioned. Who's the project manager? What's the scope of work? And I can get into a long explanation of what projects require, but we don't have that answer. Now, the story about Cherry Capital Communications is a for-profit commercial ISP, internet service provider, and has been wanting to expand some of their network in northern Manistee County and southern Benzie County. And a representative from Cherry Capital Communications was at Board of Commissioners meeting, I can't remember the date, several weeks ago, saying, hey, I never knew all this was going on, and Spectrum is moving all over the place. What's going on? Well, the reality is Spectrum has never told us what their area of coverage is going to be. And one of the things that anybody, whether it's Cherry Capital Communications or some other provider, would have to know where their competitors are going so that they can make plans on what they're going to cover. Recently, our county administrator sent an announcement. I shouldn't say sent an announcement, posted, that was sent to me, that the Economic Development Corporation is doing something with Cherry Capital Communications. I've asked for clarification about what that something is, and I have not yet received any response. So I mention all this because I don't know that an actual project manager actually exists, and I don't know what Cherry Capital Communications is doing, and I don't know what their definition of public-private partnership means. Does a partnership mean that we're going to get half the revenue or half the profits from Cherry Capital Communications if they should establish their network? I don't know. Does that mean the county assumes all the risk and none of the benefits? I don't know. I encourage everyone to contact their commissioners, your respective commissioner, and ask for answers to these questions. And I don't mean ask politely, I mean demand answers to these questions, because I'm not getting the answers, and I was on the committee. So back to you, Gary.
Well, those are all very insightful comments, and I feel your pain. I feel that. I'm sorry that you can't get this information, but your points are all extraordinarily well taken. Linden is a private public partnership. meaning that Linden owns the infrastructure, but we've contracted with someone else to run it and to provide service. And I think the important part about it is something that we touched on earlier. I think you want this to be the best possible outcome that you can get. And part of that is going to be, how much does it cost your residents to get their service? And what's the guarantee for future rates of service as you go along? There's a lot of questions like that that need to be very clear and answered very specifically before you enter into agreement with anyone. Because if you just turn this over wholesale to a for-profit company, I think we understand that there's a lot of possibilities for rates that wouldn't be desirable, increased rates, but I think the main thing is to know what's going on before you get into it, before anybody signs anything on the dotted line.
Great, great, good points. Other questions, folks?
Yeah, Jim Olson here. This is a follow-up question on this question of public-private partnership or private. Two questions, Gary. One is just a general question of, would you explain the extent to which a local governing body like Linden Township and or the county or townships here have in terms of leveraging control? And secondly, what is your personal opinion on public-private partnerships and private sector? Obviously, the private sector, if just for water, all of us on this call and most of the people in Benzie County wouldn't put up with a private delivery system of water. We want access. We want accountability.
Yes.
Diversity. So, what if you would answer those two questions?
Okay. So let's start first with government, municipalities, and ownership of. I'll speak specifically to broadband infrastructure. There are several laws on the books in the state of Michigan about local municipalities, be it a city, a township, a county, owning broadband infrastructure. It's not in the laws currently don't favor municipal ownership of broadband utilities. It is possible. There are things that need to be done before the municipality can actually embark upon building its own infrastructure. It's all under the Metro Act. The Metro Act spells it out. Linden Township had to do it. We had to put out a request for proposals for someone to build the network. And we had to have it out there for 60 days, and we had to see if anybody would bid on it. And then if someone did or did not bid on it, then we had to, find out if that was exactly what we had planned for. But the long story short, you can go through the hoops of getting into municipalities can get to own broadband infrastructure. There's just some hoops to jump through. One of the real big questions about municipal ownership is some municipal entities, let's take your county, for example, they may not want to own that infrastructure. They may not want to own it. They may not want to be responsible for it, to own it. Some are that way. Linden Township, we chose the public-private model where we actually own the infrastructure. We own it. We paid for it, bought it, built it. It is ours. And then what we did is we put out an RFP for people to operate and to provide service on it. And we struck a 5-year deal with an ISP. So that gave us, we had the ability then to be very much involved in terms of what the rates would be, what the levels of service would be. That was an agreement with our private partner. That's something that we negotiated with them. And obviously we negotiated from the standpoint of what's best for the residents. And then they came back with a proposal. We went back and forth, but we got a 5-year plan. And I got to tell you, from my personal experience with this private partnership, it has worked out very well for us in terms of we are solvent. We have a net revenue every month of about, somewhere in the neighborhood of $14,000 to $15,000 after we pay all our expenses. And of course, that money is, I talked about future proofing. That money is all devoted to updates of electronics and things in the future, the equipment that's in people's homes. We renew and we update that. So our private partnership has been a good one, public-private. So that's sort of the tip of the iceberg on some of this stuff. But municipalities can own it if they want to. They have to jump through some hoops. Our experience with private public has been good. Linden Township does not want to be the operator. We couldn't operate our network. We couldn't do that. We don't have the people, the money, the trucks to roll, all that headache, the billing, all of that kind of stuff. We turned that all over to a private outfit, and they do it, and they're doing a good job. And we're using Midwest Energy and Communications. That's our people, MEC out of Cassopolis, Michigan.
Great. Thank you. Great answer. Whew. Some great questions here, folks. We have any more questions for Gary?
I guess I have one.
Barry.
So this maybe is too obvious, but is it given that every household in Benzie County, taking into account some of the backwoods, whatever that we have here, every household is going to have broadband access, or is it reasonable to expect even when it's all ultimately completed and everybody's happy, there are going to be places where people have to go to a library to log on or whatever? Or are we trying to shoot every square inch of the county?
Well, let me answer that with what we did in Linden, and then you can draw your own conclusions from there.
Okay.
After much looking about and talking with a lot of people around the country and a lot of other places that have done this, one of their main goals or one of the main things for success was the fewer barriers you have to people signing up, the better it will be for you in the long run. So in Linden Township, let me give you an example. In Linden Township, we're very rural. The average driveway length in Linden Township is 330 feet. That's the average length.
Wow.
Some of them are a quarter of a mile, some of them are 90 feet. We thought about charging people for installation, and we were advised against that, because what is important is that you get enough take rate, you get enough people involved in a network that are willing to pay for service. That's the real important thing, because that's what will carry you in the long haul. If you start putting in, oh, we can't go here, or we can't go there, or we're going to charge you for this to install it, you're probably going to shoot yourself in the foot in terms of the successful implementation. So Linden decided to do all of it. And I'll give you a hint. Linden has 68 miles of public-private roads. That's how many public and private roads we have. Here's something that'll really light you up. We have 68 miles of fiber on the public and private roads. We have another 68 miles of fiber in driveways.
Huh.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
But it sounds like a lot, but looking back, it was the thing. Don't put hurdles in front of people trying to sign up. Let them sign up. We paid for the, all of the drops and everything, the installations, all the equipment home. We paid for all of that. And that model proved to be, for us, the right model.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's
This is
great.
Dino Cortezas again. I can interject, and maybe Gary can expound on this. One important point that we haven't talked about is the difference between telephone companies and cable companies. The laws, the regulations under the FCC are different for cable companies than they are for phone companies. Traditionally, up until the Telecommunication Act of 1996, AT&T had a legal or sanctioned monopoly granted by the FCC, by the government, to provide telephone service for anybody in the United States who wanted it. And the telephone company, AT&T, was required to make the connection regardless of how expensive or how difficult it might be. There was no excuse. If a customer wanted to get a telephone connection, AT&T had to put it in, no matter what. Cable TV companies, on the other hand, weren't required to do that because they were primarily considered a form of entertainment, and they were not granted any type of legal monopoly. The Telecommunication Act of 1996 changed that. Cable companies pretty much now can do pretty much whatever they want. There's really no real regulation from the FCC.
Right.
Telephone companies still have a little bit of regulation, but the telephone companies aren't forced to provide people with broadband they were supposed to give people DSL, that's digital subscriber line, which is what some of you may have. It's kind of a slow telephone line based internet. It's, you know, in its day, it was not bad, but the cable companies have all been switching to fiber, and the telephone companies are also switching to fiber. We're at a point now where we probably shouldn't make any distinction between telephone companies and cable companies. And the telephone companies are all slowly merging from what was touted to be hundreds and hundreds of competing companies. They're merging back to a virtual monopoly. And the laws haven't been changed to take that into account. The cable companies now are also slowly becoming a monopoly. They're technically an oligopoly because there are at least 20 major cable companies. But in our area and many parts of the country, Spectrum is using these rural digital opportunity funds to become the local monopoly. And so the FCC didn't completely screw everybody over. There is a provision called the Local Franchising Authority. If a community or state in Massachusetts, by the way, the state of Massachusetts is the Local Franchising Authority. In Michigan, I don't know if we have any. Gary might be able to speak on that. But the Local Franchising Authority is essentially, could be the Board of Commissioners, could be some other group that can dictate what cable companies can and cannot do, where they can and cannot install, and what charges they're going to be billing for their services. You know, pretty much like the federal government used to do prior to the Telecommunication Act of 1996 for the telephone companies.
Right.
So that's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful.
Well, you know, this is Jim Olson again. These are so critical questions because Michigan has a tradition, both at the local government level, townships, municipalities, before utilities can locate, there are very strong constitutional provisions and legal statutes that require franchise agreements. And to what extent does the Telecommunications Act either totally preempt or limit this constitutionally based local government franchise control?
Good question.
Now, these are questions that are beyond my legal reach, but I can say this. I can say, I lost my train of thought, but well, let me say this about this. I made a comment earlier that there's a lot of money coming into Michigan and a lot of people will be interested. All of those incumbent providers like Spectrum and all of those people, they weren't knocking down your doors before to provide service, but they are now because there's big money involved in this. And so they want to get a piece of that money. So that's incentivized them to come back now to these local, more rural places because the government's going to hand them some money to build this stuff out. But it is interesting that they're there now, and I would be very, I'd want to know more about what they're up to and how your county government is interacting with them relative to providing service. I'd want to know what's going on there.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay. Maybe one more question. This has gone really long because everybody's got great questions. You got so much to say, and it's all really valuable. We'll take one more question if somebody's got one. Okay. Gary, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I learned so much today, and it's so good to be back in touch with you, just as an old bud. So cool. Thank you very, very, very much. Really
You're welcome. And the best to all of you, and thank you for the opportunity. And I wish you all the best. And you know, I can just say that your work with Merit, I can't imagine, but that you are not more than satisfied with that work because it is an incredibly powerful body of work. There are other things that Merit has in terms of opportunity to assist you, and I would look to them as if I were looking for consultants, of which there are many. Merit is one that I would consider. There's a lot of people out there providing this information, but They have a pretty good track record. I know those people well, and it's worth giving a listen to what they have to say.
Okay, great. Well, they brought us to you, so
Oh, good.
they obviously know what they're doing. That's great. That's
All right.
great.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, Gary.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. I would just remind people to save the chat before you leave because it's got a whole bunch of information on it. And I'll also tell you that this talk has been recorded and it will be up soon and you'll be able to watch it or share it with friends. I think probably you'll want to share it with friends who care about internet and Benzie. This ain't going to happen the way we need it to unless we're pounding on the commissioners. I think that's the one really obvious thing. Now we've got more information. Now you got some ideas, some good questions. You could go ask Vanderwall and O'Malley and the Spectrum people on Monday at Grow Benzie if you'd like to do that. And we'll keep moving forward and keep you all apprised on this, okay? All right. Anybody else want to say anything about anything that's not broadband or that we haven't brought up yet today? Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. I hope you have a good Saturday, what's left of it. And we'll be back in 1 month on the 3rd Saturday of September when we will be just weeks away from the beginning of voting. Between now and then, please engage yourself with something good here at the Benzie County Democrats. We've got a lot of stuff to choose from, a lot of people working hard. We really need your help, okay? Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim. Hey, Jim.
Yes.
Do you know the Monday event with O'Malley and Spectrum and Vanderwall? Is that written up anywhere in an ad? Did you see it posted somewhere?
I saw it in an email that I've been desperately looking for during the meeting, and I can't find it. But all you need to know is show up over there tomorrow or Monday at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Hey,
And it's a
Jim?
town hall, essentially.
Yeah.
Jim,
Yes.
can we find out from Gary what speed of service they have in Linden Township and the cost per household?
He's gone, but I will ask him that question. I'll follow up on that. That's a good question.
Thank you very, I just posted in chat, but I think it's too late.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, well, I'm going to end the meeting here. Bye, everybody. I'm going to go get a sandwich. See ya.